Welcome to the WODprep Warm-Up Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Jawalski, the founder and CEO of WODprep, and I'm here with head coach, Dr. CJ DePalma. And today we are going to talk about a bunch of things. We're going to talk about how to train during the open, whether you should retest workouts, basically who are the athletes that should redo workouts and who are the athletes that maybe shouldn't redo workouts. We're going to talk about what your training should look like for those getting ready for quarterfinals, which remember the top 25% of people who do the open will qualify for quarterfinals. That's a lot more than years previous. So there's a lot of people, especially those who can RX all the workouts. I don't want to get too deep into it, but those that can RX all the workouts, they should be thinking about preparing for quarterfinals, not the open. And we're also going to talk about how our programming is getting training through the open and into quarterfinals. So basically, how are we designing our training for our athletes through the open and quarterfinals? CJ, what's up, brother?
How are you? How are you coming along?
I'm hanging in there. The WODprep faithful probably know that I had to put my first baby boy, my puppy Murphy, had to put him down last week, and it's been a whirlwind. It's been very hard to get back to work, but I mean, if anything, I'm just happy to have an amazing 11 years with him, and I'm really thankful that his complications and us having to put him down happened before the crazy time for WODprep. So it happened before the open. So I thank Murphy for that, and it's time to get back to work because the open is right around the corner. How should athletes train during the open?
Let's go to the who should train, like who should retest workouts. I think that's probably like a better question to start with, right? So you have two types of athletes, right? You have athletes that are trying to do their utmost and best in the open because that's just what they want to do, or they need to do their best to make sure that they get into that top 25%. Okay, so we're going to lump those two people together, right? Because not everyone in the open wants to go on. They just want to get as best score as they can, which is totally fine. And then we have the athletes that are really focused on quarterfinals that are a shoe-in for um, to make it to quarterfinals. They're a shoe-in for top 25% as individual or age group, whichever you're competing in. And so that's the other group, right? Now, if your focus is to do the utmost and best way that you can in the open, best score possible on every workout, then you need to be preparing to hit the workout twice every time. And now this is a big change of my tune over the last few years. Um, uh, because if your goal is to do your best, then we know everyone retests and does better, right? So why not? So just set yourself up to do that. Do it Friday, do it Monday, have the weekend to prepare, right? So everyone should be relatively deloading that first week into the first open, right? Because even if it's not your main focus, it's a good time to kind of reset the batteries. It's 7 weeks out of a quarterfinal, so everyone should be kind of just toning it down a little bit to prepare for the intensity and the effort and the fatigue that the open is going to create, right? Because pushing in a competition style workout is much different than training workouts, right? Even really high effort training pieces. So um, uh, if you are doing that, then you continue that for the entire 3 weeks. If your goal is the open, you will continue to be in what we consider a maintenance phase. So each week when the workout comes out, you'll do it on Friday, you'll prep on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, you'll recover and you'll start to re-scheme or replan, et cetera, et cetera. Then you'll redo it on Monday. And then you'll take Tuesday and Wednesday to do some very light training, touching on some skills maybe that haven't shown up yet, maybe some light lifting. And then you'll do it again on the next Friday, and then you'll do it again on the following Friday, right? And you'll follow that pattern for 3 weeks. And those are for the athletes that want to do their absolute best score possible in the open for one of two reasons, because they're not going to continue on, or and they just want to do the open and then be done with it, or the athlete that is unsure if they're going to make it to quarterfinals.
For athletes who maybe have traditionally retested workouts. Maybe they're really good at the open, they're going to make the quarterfinals, but for whatever reason, that competitive spirit inside of them is like, I want to do the best I possibly can in the open to see where I stack up based on my scores compared to past years. Then those kinds of athletes, even if they might for sure make it to the next round, I understand the desire to want to retest workouts. I mean, even back in my I'm not really doing the open phase during a lot of my travel and while I was living in Japan and things like that, I would still retest workouts because it's incredible. Like this, the data doesn't lie. Whenever you redo a workout, you tend to do better, even if you're more fatigued. Like even going into the workout not feeling as fresh, maybe on Monday, ideally is the time to redo it. Even when you go into the workout not as fresh, you still there's just something about already knowing how it's going to feel when you get to that whatever that like that point of the workout is when you're just absolutely wrecked and you're like I need to push just a little bit harder because I know I can get past that score that I set, maybe the previous Friday. There's just something about that. There's something about the retest that always seems to bring out a better score. I think it's just the body is ready, your mind is ready for it to hurt a lot more than maybe you expected, and you do better. So if you're really trying to maximize your score, the long and short of it is you should definitely plan for 2 retests. Should anyone ever do 3 retests or 4? Because I've certainly seen a lot of that.
I mean, I can probably think of a handful of workouts over the years that 3 wouldn't have been totally detrimental, but Dave is back, which I would assume that means that it's probably going the intensity and like the contraction volume, even though he's not directly programming it, he's got a hand in it again. Um, for a long time, it was never a good idea, right? The workout was too destroying, right? Like it was too hard, right? Too many contractions, too much volume, too much hinging or too much squatting to kind of repeat. But we say that, and I mean, I did workouts 3 times and I got better all 3 times. So it is what it is, right? Um, but no, that's never an ideal, right? There's a point, just like diminishing returns, and you're going to get to that point, right? Fatigue will, like you said, you'll be fatigued, but you'll get better. Well, there's a point where that won't happen anymore, right? Like on test 3, there's a chance that your fatigue will overtake your learned response or the knowledge that you've gained, and then it'll just be a waste of time. That's no fun. And that's where an injury and like things start to pop up.
And what about, so we've kind of mentioned a lot of athletes, perennial RX athletes, people who can do all the skills and lift a proficient amount of weight. Those people are probably going to make it to the quarterfinals, probably. But what about the athletes that are, their competition season in terms of CrossFit HQ will probably end during the open. Maybe they can only get one muscle up, or they're still working on those first double unders or those first toes to bar. How should athletes approach their, initial test, their initial attempt, and their redo attempt? Like, should they try different strategies? Should they be focusing during their whole week just focusing on trying to learn the skills that they don't have? Like what should their approach be if it's like, hey, the open is all I have, I want to get my best possible score, I want to beat so and so at the gym that I always go head to head with during normal class time? What should their strategy look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think theirs should definitely be the mindset of test and retest, but you never want to go into your first one as like, this is a practice round because you're not going to learn everything you need to learn, right? You got to have some trials and tribulations like in that first one and fail a little bit so you know how to reapproach it. You never want to finish a workout that you're going to retest and like, oh, I could have just like I gamed it too much, right? You'd rather overgame it and then pull it back instead of have to push harder because then it's a new feeling, right? Then you're like, oh man, I don't know if I'm ready to like to do that. And so, but yeah, the time in between the workouts, or we'll just say like between the test and retest, if there's a skill component in there that you want to get better at, then I would spend that Saturday, probably not Sunday, working on that skill. If it's double unders or maybe some like body positions for toes to bar or pull up or something like that. You can't get stronger. You're probably not going to learn a new skill, but maybe you just unlock like 5% that can maybe change change the outcome, right? Or you can scheme it a little bit better. If it's a big chunk of double unders, maybe you need to just do smaller chunks, or maybe you miss too often and you shouldn't try to chunk it up because then you rest too much. It's so workout specific. Now, in between weeks, right? Those 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, let's call it 2 days, you know, you should be working on the skills that maybe you don't have. If you're close to a muscle up, you spend that time kind of working, making sure you take care of your hands, don't tear anything or don't do anything too hard, too high of heart rate or too much intensity, but you work on those skills to refine them, um, or like polish up what you have, right? To make it as smooth as possible and start to pre-plan. Okay, if there's a big chunk of pull-ups, I know I'm going to do this and this, so you don't have to do everything that night of.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think there's something I want to highlight, and that's even if you know you're redoing the workout, don't approach the first attempt with the idea of, yeah, I'm going to redo it later, so this one doesn't really matter, because that really, like you said, it defeats the purpose. You're not going to truly expose yourself to that full attempt. So even if you know, yep, I'm doing it twice, 100%, like I already know it, I would challenge you, try to do so well on the first attempt that you're like, I actually don't need to redo this, right? Because I think it can mess up a lot of athletes if they go into, let's say, Friday night lights with a mindset of like, yeah, this is just a practice run for me. Then really you're not exposing your body to the true limits of yourself. And thus, when you hit the workout again on Monday to redo it, you're kind of not really prepared. You haven't gotten yourself to that deep, dark place to truly understand what your limit is. So make sure, even if you know you're doing 2 attempts, make that first attempt count, because you never know what's going to happen on attempt number two. Attempt number two, your jump rope might break, your ring straps might fall off, something might go wrong, your barbell might have a collar come off. Who knows what's going to happen. So don't ever think that you have this safety net in your back pocket. Attempt that first workout all out, and then and only then should you start thinking about your redo after that first attempt has been fully attempted.
Yeah, if you're going to train. If you're going to compete, right? And I think in the open, it's okay to compete twice in that time period. Um, Now, to continue on that, those that are going to quarterfinals, like what should you be doing during the open, right? Which does training look like for you? So this athlete, again, this is like a two-part question. Um, this athlete should for sure be training as normal as possible during the time frame, because from Monday the 19th, we have 8 weeks until quarterfinals starts. Okay, April 17th. All right, so it gives us 8.5 weeks. We'll deload. You deload the 3 days before, so you have 8 full weeks of training starting the 19th. And so if you go into the open as a quarterfinal based athlete that wants to do their best in quarterfinals and potentially make it further, if you push too much in the open, that's one, you have a week prior, and then you have 3 more weeks of the open. That's 4 wasted weeks of training, because when we start to retest and we put all of our effort there and all of the intensity goes there, it's hard to get a really good training stimulus the rest of the week because of the intensity and the fatigue and the neurological fatigue that happens from competitive and like all out type efforts, right? So training, now we're not saying that we don't want you to do well. We want you to go into it, hit your 1 attempt on Friday, and then be confident and be done with it and continue training on. Saturday should be normal training. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday should be normal training all the way through. That's what we're having our athletes to do, even our semifinal athletes, because quarterfinals is really important. And now, so go back, even for individuals with the less spots going to semifinals, right? Quarterfinals is very important for, we'll call it like every athlete that you can name besides like 10. Okay. Because especially as the individuals. Now there's masters that are top 200 go to semifinals. Some of them will be able to kind of relax through quarterfinals, but as an individual or teams, because there's so many less spots in the big divisions or in the big regions, it's really important for everyone, but maybe the top 50 athletes, male and female, in the world, right? Like you could have a bad workout and it could be, you could be short and there could be wall ball rowing and I don't know, rowing, like an air bike or a high box jump or something. And you're just like, well, this is going to be rough, right? So for those athletes, you're going to take this 8 weeks from the 19th, we'll call it 7 weeks from the open, however you want to define it, is a full training phase to get ready for quarterfinals, right? This is a full block, a full competitive prep block that you should be doing during the quarterfinals, okay? Now, because we don't know what's coming on Monday or on Friday or Thursday night, doing it on Friday, assuming you're doing it on Friday, your training still has to make some adjustments, right? Usually heavy gymnastics and a lot of contraction volume is earlier in the week, right? And then Tuesday, Wednesday, it starts to slowly back it down because the intensity is going to be so high. So you kind of have this like really high push Friday, Saturday-ish, Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday are kind of this recovery point. You know, the way that we're doing it here at WODprep, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but that first week is a full deload going into the first workout because it's good to just give some confidence on the board, as they say, right? You don't want to get some oomph. So we're going to pull everyone down. We're starting our new phase on Monday, the 19th, which is kind of like a transition, higher intensity phase, finishing what we were just in, and then fully deloading into that first week. So quarterfinal athletes, you guys have to keep training, and you can't over prioritize the open because you'll get lost and you'll miss a lot of valuable training time.
Yeah, like I know for me this year, unless something crazy happens or I get injured, I will make it to quarterfinals. And my game plan is to do one attempt, right? So I'll come in on Friday, probably do Friday night lights or do it. I'll try to hit the workout at approximately the same time that I normally work out, which is about 1:32 p.m. I'll do the open workout. It'll be done, and then I'll probably have more training on top of it, right? So I'm going to get that score. I'm very confident that my score will be enough to qualify me to quarterfinals, and then I will get back to training and I will continue training as normal because I think a mistake a lot of quarterfinal athletes will make is they're probably going to taper too much, right? They're going to, I mean, I know a lot of athletes that when a competition is coming up or the open is coming up, they're like, I don't want to do anything because what if I get sore or what if this happens or what if this happens? We still need to be we still need to have training adaptation during this time because we're not done. We're not at our playoffs, right? We shouldn't be treating the open like all I'm going to do is basically rest all week and then do an open workout and then rest and be nervous all week and then do another open workout and then rest and be nervous all week and do another open workout. That's a lot of training volume that you've missed out on that you will need to have in the tank come quarterfinals. So for the quarterfinals athletes, it's kind of like deprioritize the open if you know you're going to make one attempt count, and as long as your scores are stacking up where they should be, you'll make it no problem, and you have all this time to continue training to make sure that you're ready for the big event, which will be quarterfinals. So we've talked about retesting workouts. We've talked about kind of how to train during the open, depending on the kind of athlete you are. And as a review, if you're an athlete that's trying to maximize the open, then you do need to make sure you're resting each week and still training, but resting enough so that your two efforts per open workout are at full intensity. So you're feeling great on Friday, you attack it, you learn, you maybe if you're inside of WODprep programming, you come to our redo call where we talk about, the latest and greatest strategies to help you get your best score possible, which always tend to change once we've had a few athletes test the open workouts. You redo the workout, and then, like CJ said, you're not training at a super high volume so that you can recover Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then be ready to go again on Friday. And then the quarterfinals athletes are the ones that are basically treating the open just like normal training. They're probably doing more training on top of Friday's attempt, right? So I'd hit the open workout, and then depending on the volume, I might do some more stuff on top of it. Those are for the quarterfinals athletes. Now, how is WODprep programming going to look when it comes to the open? Like, how are we programming for each kind of open and quarterfinal athlete?
Obviously our advice is what we'll be doing. So our quarterfinal athletes start their new phase on the 19th. And so the open athletes start their new phase as well. And so this first week of the 19th through the 26th is what we consider, we get kind of nerdy here. It's like a super compensation phase, which is like an overreaching phase, right? So like we're overreaching, everyone's a little tired and they're feeling kind of beat up. And so then we drop it back down. To get ready for that week, right? And so then we take like a 3-day deload, and then everyone's going to do that. And then after week 1, the intermediate and the open bias tracks are going to veer off, and then they're going to kind of continue in what we consider a maintenance phase, right? They'll have the beginning of the week, they'll have an option, right? We don't want to make everyone do the workouts twice, but we'll advise it, and then we'll give an optional. And so they'll go into basically this polish and refinement phase of just like working on some skills, full lifts, skills that haven't popped up yet. And so that will be the priority of the beginning of the week. And then, you know, Monday and Tuesday will be some intensity, engine capacity type stuff. And then Wednesday will be sort of I don't know, like a little bit of bodybuilding, less in like just more aerobic work, right? So you have machines and, pretty much no like eccentric contractions, right? Because that's what makes you really, really sore. So you see a lot of burpees and stuff like that at like 80-85%. And then Thursday will be a active flow if they want to. Friday, they'll do the test. Saturday will be based on Friday, whatever it is, some very light training, and then they'll retest it on Monday.
I think a lot of gyms do this, which is smart, but for some reason, some gyms don't, and that's fine. But if you really want to maximize your open experience, let's say the first workout, 24.1, is released and there is double unders, wall balls, and ring muscle ups. Okay. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, but let's say that's 24.1 and it happens. After 24.1, especially if you're trying to maximize your open performance, you probably in your training, and I'm sure in WODprep programming, we're probably not going to be programming a bunch of double unders, wall balls, and ring muscle ups, right? We're going to shift our focus from, okay, those skills are checked off. Double unders, wall balls, and ring muscle ups aren't going to show back up in the final 2 weeks of the open. So we're going to shift our focus on movements that haven't showed up, like toes to bar. What other movements would, like, hypothetically, if that's the first workout, what would the next 2 weeks of training look like?
Yeah, we still make sure that we're kind of touching heavy load, right? Maybe a little bit of load under fatigue, like an Olympic lift or a thruster, clean and jerk, snatch, etc. We probably won't squat heavy during this time frame for the open priority athletes.
And why is that? Because that's going to smoke someone's central nervous system too much, or?
Yeah, his nervous system. There's a lot of knee flexion, especially if we just had wall balls. If there is wall balls, it means there's a lot of them, over 100. There never isn't over 100, which is a lot of knee flexion. So we look at that contraction pattern and we're like, all right, we probably don't need to do a lot of knee flexion under a lot of load, right? And the fatigue kind of sets in. So we want to save the knees so we can maybe do some more jumping or thruster or like a squat clean or a full snatch or something like that, or a lunge. And so, so if those are the workouts, we might double under, right? Because it's kind of a low impact thing. It really doesn't fatigue a lot of people a ton. It's a good engine piece, but muscle ups, we for sure wouldn't be touching any muscle ups, right? And we take that beginning of the week and that polish and refinement focus and touch on gymnastics and then high skill things, right? So like a full snatch, like a burpee pull up or some chest to bars. If there's a muscle up, there's probably not a bar muscle up. So, we kind of weigh our options there and we kind of take a gamble. We see a muscle up. Usually we don't see a ring muscle up or vice versa. We saw ring muscle ups in every stage last year. So you can kind of lean into the bar muscle up is probably what we're going to see more of this year. So we take that and then, we'll alter the training for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday based on that stuff. When we have a really high squat volume workout in jumping, we can assume most likely there's probably not going to be a box jump in volume or like maybe even a thruster sometimes. We look at the past couple years, that's true, but years prior, that's not true. We always had a thruster, right? So, it's very much a gamble, and we kind of just put a few heads together and like, all right, what do we want to touch? And we kind of hit it at that point. So it changes weekly, but the main thing is getting some intensity early in the week that isn't going to bury you, right? Because you're going to redo stuff on Monday, most likely as this open biased athlete. So then Tuesday will be this like kind of polished day, working on some gymnastics. Now, if there was a lot of gymnastics, there's a lot of variables here. If there was a lot of gymnastics, the muscle ups, and you did a lot of reps, or say it was chest to bars, you're probably not going to touch any gymnastics before the next workout because you're not going to have time. Hands got to take care of. And so we take that into consideration too, right? And so, there's a lot of variables there that can be confusing. CrossFit's very confusing to program for at times, especially when you're trying to guess what's coming up, which you probably shouldn't do if you read the book. The L1, they say you shouldn't do that, but we do. That's the part of the sport. So um,
Okay, so that covers like what training will look like for those really trying to prioritize the open. And then now inside of WODprep programming for the tracks, I believe it's compete, RX, and then Masters RX. Those three are going to be really focusing on making it to quarterfinals. Or it's kind of like we're training as if you are going to make quarterfinals if you're following those tracks. How does our training change? Let's say that's the workout is what was it, double unders, wall balls, and ring muscle ups. Are we not doing wall balls, double unders, ring muscle ups for the next 3 weeks in those tracks?
yeah, so probably a little bit of something. We probably will not do muscle ups because it's a movement that we will most likely see in the next stage. But we won't make it a high priority, right? So whatever comes out on Fridays, okay, we'll assume it's what is that, 13.3, right? Which was like, or 15 point, was it 15.3 wall balls, muscle ups, double unders? Anyways, it was like 100, 50 and 20, something like that. Anyways, that's a pretty high volume of muscle ups and a decent amount of wall balls. Now, we know that no matter what comes out, everything is on the table for the next, right, for the next stage. Okay. And especially if we don't see a lift. So we have our plan and we're going to hold to the plan regardless of what comes out. We'll make small edits. Like if we do a lot of muscle ups on Friday, we won't do muscle ups on Monday, right? Um, uh, if there's a lot of squatting on Friday, we probably won't do extra squatting on Monday. We still will have squatting. But we probably won't do squatting in the conditioning piece, right? Like we wouldn't do wall balls again. We'll probably, if we were planning on it, we might switch it to a power clean or something like that, right? Or maybe even a lunge. And so, it's again, there's a lot of variables depending on how well our athletes did, what they need to work on. And then, when you see what's in the open, sometimes it can kind of be a little bit of a light into what's coming. So if we see a lot of, like we see a muscle up fully, we say that, but we saw it in both stages last year. Actually, we saw it in all three stages in the games, I think, but we didn't see it in the games for the Masters. It's just, there's a lot of bit that goes on. So we'll take it into consideration. And the main focus that we're looking for is to not overload a joint, right, with repetitive motion. That's our main focus in the open for our quarterfinal based or semifinal or games based athletes, is to just let the workout be a kind of like the cornerstone of the week when we choose what other movements we're going to elicit, right? So we have our stimulus and our main focus for the week and our energy systems that we want to work, or whatever his VO2 max or engine or gymnastics density. And so we'll write the week, and then when the open workout comes out, we'll make small edits and kind of rework the week around whatever we see, right? I think that's probably the best way to put it. To avoid the term I hate, overtraining, right? We won't overtrain, but to avoid like too much focus into one area, right? Like if we had wall balls, muscle ups, and double unders on Monday, we for sure would take it out and replace it with maybe like a box jump and a bar muscle up and, I don't know, farmer's carries or something similar.
So one thing I wanted to highlight is obviously there's so many variables. We have no idea what's coming. We don't know if there's new movements, old workouts, completely new workouts. If there's leveled workouts, if we have no idea. They might program burpee backflips. Who knows, right? You never know. So what I want to do is highlight how is WODprep programming. So how is our athletes going to have the best chance of doing well in both the open and the quarterfinals? What kind of stuff are we doing for the athletes that are on the inside? Because obviously here at WODprep, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know I shoot a lot of videos and release a lot of free content for helping people get better at the open and quarterfinals. We do a lot of strategy videos, emails, articles, everything. But what a lot of people don't realize is we do a lot more and better for people who are inside of WODprep programming and our one-on-one athletes. What kind of stuff are we going to be doing in WODprep programming to help with the strategy, to help with the redos, to help with, people learning their first muscle ups, things like that?
Yeah, so we'll talk about during the open, like what we do as a group, and then we'll talk about the actual phase that we're putting all the athletes through. Right, I think that's a good order. So in the group, as soon as the open is released, we have a strategy call live with all of our coaches. That happens approximately an hour afterwards. We'll talk about what we think the good strategy is, some good scores, where we think people will land based on their um, qualification spots, right? And then kind of break down different strategies for different levels of athletes. Okay. Um, and then along with that, that's a live call where people can put messages in and ask questions. Hey, I'm this athlete. This is what I struggle with. And so, or this is where I'm good at. How would you, what do you think I should do? And what we won't do is we won't tell you what score we think you should get, but we will tell you like, hey, this is how I think you should approach this workout. And then we use our platform is called WODup. And so in WODup, you can ask all those questions and we kind of like work overtime during these 3 weeks. And we're very attentive in there. We're always very attentive in there anyways with like we'll call it a 6 hour maximum return time. But now it's like, on Thursday and Friday, we're in there the whole time, right? It's just on my screen all day while I'm writing programming. And so, we'll call it an hour at max for most people's questions as long as we're awake. So any questions you have, we also have video coaching space available, which is a space in WODup where you can just post videos of either a skill or maybe like an attempt on the workout. We won't watch the entire 20-minute piece, but we'll give you some feedback on transitions or where we think you might have messed up, what approaches you might want to work on to improve. Or if you're going at it for the first time, you ask some questions, you'll get a very detailed response from one of our coaches in there. And then everything that we've talked about before, the training is very much adjusted every week based on the workout, right? And then on Sundays, we do a redo call, which is another live call that Ben said is us just going back over what we've learned over the last 48 hours to that point, almost 72 hours to that point of our individual athletes going through, our high level athletes going through, our intermediate level athletes going through, and everyone in between. And if you're going to redo it, this will help you kind of maybe adjust your scheme. It's a live call again. You can ask questions, etc.
As a review, workout comes out 24.1. The coaches all meet up and come up with a strategy. We chat back and forth while I'm shooting the YouTube video that goes out for free to the public, which is very general. You guys are talking specifics as a coaching team. And then there's that live call that everyone can hop on. And it is recorded as well. If you can't hop on the live call, you get access to the recording. And on that live call, they go through strategy for all different kinds of athletes, and you can ask questions. So it's not just them talking at you. You can actually interact with the coaches and say, hey, I can't do XYZ. What should I do? Or I can only do one of these. What should, and get that kind of customized feedback. So that happens on the live call. And then again, we're all working overtime during the open. So during the week, leading up to the open workouts, or especially during the actual submission window for the open workouts, let's say it is double unders, wall balls, and ring muscle ups. You can literally go in there and upload a video in the video coaching space saying, hey, coach, I keep tripping on my double unders. What's happening? Upload a video, and then one of our coaches will respond and give you tips and hopefully be able to fix your mistakes. Or, coach, I'm really close to getting that first ring muscle up. What am I doing wrong? I'm missing something. Upload a video, boom, you can get direct coaching from my best coaches to help you get there and get over those rings. So I think it's a truly, like, people don't realize the value that they're getting for $39 a month. We don't charge any extra during this period. We just give a lot extra during this period. So if you are someone who really is trying to maximize your open score, and also this same stuff applies during the quarterfinals. It's a little bit more condensed with the quarterfinals, but the same thing applies. So if you're trying to maximize either of those scores and really truly achieve your full potential on the leaderboard with your athletic potential and get the best scores possible, it's a truly invaluable resource. And I can assure you that even if you maybe you're not in it right now, even if you just join for the month or two that covers the open and quarterfinals, it will be well worth your investment. Even if you're not following the programming, I think a lot of people don't realize that, is that, let's say you go to an affiliate and you follow, CrossFit XYZ affiliate programming, and you just go to your class and do those workouts, that's fine. But chances are you don't have coaches doing video reviews and individually helping you improve on the intricacies of your skills to help you get your best scores. Well, that's what we do. So even if you come in and you don't follow the programming, you'll still get access to our warm-ups, our customized warm-ups that we release inside the group for each workout. You'll still get access to all the video coaching. You get access to plenty of stuff to make it that $39 value well worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a lot of fun, right? Like, we have a pretty good relationship with all the athletes in there. It's not a bot. It's us. We love it. And so we really, any athlete that you asked that's been a part of WODprep for any amount of time can attest to it. All right, so let's talk about the phase, like what we're doing. So for our quarterfinal athletes, right? The open athletes, you guys will go into this maintenance phase, like we said, and then as soon as the open is done, you are going into an off-season deload, starting to focus on next season. But and we're working on that. There's always something in the fire, right? We have so many things happening. But for the athletes prepping for quarterfinals, we're starting our new phase, right? This Monday, February 19th. And so this phase is going to help us be ready to hit the first open workout and make sure that we're comfortable going into workout 2 and 3 or week 2 and 3 as well. But during that time period, like Ben said, we can't waste all that training time. We have 8 weeks. And this is a good competition prep phase, right? Or, some people call it, they like do the open prep, and so this is our quarterfinal prep phase, right? And so with it, our main goal is to make sure you're ready to hit whatever those stimuluses are in those quarterfinal workouts. And now they've varied over the years, but we know they're going to be higher skill. We know they're probably going to be a smidge slower, right? Less engine biased. And we know there's probably going to be a lift. Like that's our general bit. And if you listen to Boz and Dave said yesterday that you could probably, if you had a relatively well outfitted garage gym, you could do all the quarterfinal workouts at home, which is a very interesting statement. Dave also said that he could do all the workouts, which is another interesting statement because, I'm not going to dog Dave Castro, but he's not exceptionally fit. He said he thinks he can make quarterfinals. It's a big range there. And so what that leads us to think is that it's all going to be very ladder driven, right? Or still very engine biased work. Because remember, the individuals and the masters are doing the exact same quarterfinal workouts, right? So if you are 35 to 39 or 40 to 44, you have, there's a couple people with outside chances to make an individual semifinal, right? And so they wanted to give the same workout to everyone. So they didn't have to do 2 workouts or pay. You still have to pay 2 different things to sign up for both, but it's the same workout and you can do them at the same time. And so that means that a 54-year-old is going to be doing the same thing that Tia Claire Toomey is, which means that it has to be a very cleverly done workout. So with that in consideration, this is our approach, okay? And just kind of broke it down into some bullet points here. And so the first one is going to be peaking our Olympic lifts, okay? And so we've lifted very heavy all year, and we're going to continue to do that. We're doing that with very traditional wave loading, snatch, and clean and jerk every week leading up, alternating weeks, okay?
And shout out, I just recently PR'd my clean, thanks to the programming. I had 330 pounds, easy peasy.
It was easy. What was hard was the squat, which was pretty interesting.
Well, the second squat, because I was like, oh, I just PR'd my clean. Oh, now I have to do a second front squat, and I was like, I don't know if my heart's in on this one.
Then we're going to do what's called battery work, which is basically taking Olympic lift complexes and using percentages of those complexes in a mixed higher skill modality setting, right? So we can get comfortable lifting under fatigue. So if we see that lift after the workout, or if we see a heavy barbell, a ladder inside a workout, which I really think we're going to see a ladder. I think that's what we're going to see in quarterfinals. So we'll be very prepared for that. We'll be hammering our gymnastics density. Boz is still programming, which means, in my opinion, that there will be a big bottleneck of sorts somewhere. Muscle ups, rope climbs, high volume GHD sit-ups, something to that effect. Or a big AMRAP of like that pistol muscle up GHD workout, something like that. So we have to make sure we're getting a lot of touches on gymnastics work and gymnastics pieces. That's all of it, okay? Obviously, all of our gymnastic skills will be intertwined in all of the training, and then we'll be taking variations of old open workouts and old quarterfinal workouts and redesigning them to elicit a higher intensity stimulus to make sure that we're used to these pairings, to get that feel, and that we're ready to hit workouts without getting fully crushed, right? Because we could just throw a bunch of quarterfinal workouts at you for the next 8 weeks. It's hard to peak for that, right? We have 8 weeks. So it's going to start easier with the open piece, and then it's going to kind of build on the back half of the 4 weeks, right? So we have 4 weeks till the end of the open, and then another 4 weeks to really push the intensity, okay? So as it gets closer, the intensity gets higher. We'll start seeing more of those actual quarterfinal workouts, but the volume will start to drop, right? And then the week before, we'll fully back down. We'll half the week and a half prior week, half beginning of that week. We'll deload, whole super compensation thing, overreach, recover, and then our fitness skyrockets. That's the whole concept of peaking. So, and then they're fun, right? We want to make sure we're still having fun, and so you won't be in this like total turmoil of hate for training and stuff. So we still have a lot of fun doing it. And it's a lot of CrossFit, right? Just well structured, engine focused, making sure that we're getting a lot of good intensity without a lot of junk volume.
All right, CJ. Well, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with regard to all the topics we covered today?
I'm doing the open. I'm excited. Those that don't know, I had some health complications, so my competitive days are over, but I will do my best, and I will probably do a lot of strict gymnastics. I can't do a lot of kipping. If it's really heavy, I might stand and stare at a barbell. But for those that are just listening, they're like, I don't know if I want to do the open. I think everyone should do it. I know we talked about this in our last podcast, but I think it's just such a good time. It's part of that community. It supports the thing that's supported us for so long, and I think everyone listening to this podcast should sign up for the open. Full biasness. Don't even care. I'm not unbiased. I'm a CrossFit super fan through and through, and I think everyone should sign up for the open. Regardless of what your goals are.
I love it. And to do that, go to games.crossfit.com. If you are interested in getting all that extra bonus coaching from us to help you maximize your scores, you can go to WODprep.com/train, and that'll get you inside of WODprep programming, which again will come with programming that you don't even have to do. If you're just there to get that extra coaching and the insider strategies that we don't release to the public and access to my whole coaching staff to upload videos, get video coaching, talk to them about strategy, hop on the redo call. If you want access to all of that, including customized warm-ups for each workout, access to all of that by going to wodprep.com/train and hop in there, and we're going to have a great time. It's going to be a great season, and I cannot wait to see the results from all the people. We've seen PRs across the board from people following our programming from all over the world on all the different tracks, whether they're in the more beginner tracks all the way up to the compete tracks. It's been so cool to watch everyone develop. It's been awesome to be a part of it because I've hit a ton of PRs and I'm pretty darn fit these days. I'm probably fitter than I ever thought I would be after my competitive days. So we'll see how it goes this year. It's going to be a good time. And we would love to have you inside WODprep programming. Again, wodprep.com/train, and you can get access to that and all the cool bonuses that come with it. All right, CJ, what is one last thing to say before you go? Give me just one last tidbit of golden wisdom from Dr. CJ.
And just remember that this is for fun, right? For those that are really serious about it, it's just a hobby. It's okay. Enjoy it, right? Don't let your fitness and your goals in this space like bring despair and depression or like sadness to your life. Like, just, this is fun. We get to do this.
Reframe it from I'm not as fit as XYZ. This comparison is a thief of joy. Instead, just think about, wow, I'm so glad I'm doing this because I'm a lot fitter than I used to be. And keep that in mind every time you're doing these open and maybe quarterfinal workouts. All right. And with that, that was the WODprep Warm-Up Podcast. We are going to sign off. Thanks so much for being here. If you are listening, please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening on. It really helps us. Also, make sure to hit subscribe. That really helps us climb the charts and get this valuable insights and wisdom in front of more people. And it is a huge, huge thank you from us if you go give us 5 stars and hit subscribe. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one.